Welcome to the Deuce Cast Extra. We are back for more Bad Batch discussion, more Loki discussion, and we are here, of course, to talk about episode 11 of the Bad Batch. That's the Devil's Deal. And then episode 5 of Loki, Journey into Mystery. And
Yes.
what an episode it was. They were both great episodes. We'll talk about both of them, of course. As always, welcome, Garrison, to the Deuce Cast Extra. Thank you for being here, sir.
Well, thank you for having me. Classic Mike.
And then, as promised, Nick will be here at some point, I promise.
He's going to miss all the Star Wars chat. Come on.
I know, he'll miss all the Star Wars chat. He better dang well be here because I'm wearing his shirt. So
Yeah.
I bought this off of Podcast of the Wills T Public store, the Dad Batch, so support your podcasters. I mean, it's always fun to do that.
I'm out of money, so
Well, I hear you. And to answer Rhett's question, Earl is indisposed. He is lacking of sleep and needs sleep.
Who's Earl?
It's as all doctors need, they need much more sleep than us regular human beings. So he is taking a break. I tried to even get him to come into the chat. I don't even think he would do that. So I don't. His brain is fried. The poor guy has been out of the country. He's back in the loving soil of America, but he is tired, so he's not going to be here tonight. So we can talk about these episodes, of course. We're into the back half of the season for the Bad Batch. There's apparently 16 episodes.
Yes.
Maybe there's only 14. Maybe there's 15. Maybe there'll be 16. Who knows? Some podcasters think there's only going to be 14. But IMDb clearly tells us that there's going to be 16 episodes of this show. So that's a good thing. I think that we're getting into some pretty good setup for the next few episodes. This particular episode, for fans of the Clone Wars and fans of Rebels, had a lot of fun cameos, right? I mean, it was cameo-ridden, really.
Yeah. I literally had to look up some of these people because I was like, oh, Rebels. Oh, of course. Okay.
That's right. You didn't watch Rebels, did you?
No.
Yeah, no.
This is something that you and Nick would really
Yeah, no, yeah. And it it's one of those shows that a lot of people like. I liked Rebels quite a bit. I mean, I think that it delved into areas of Star Wars that we had not been in before. So if you go on to Wikipedia and read the Cliff Notes version of the show, you'll see that there was actually some pretty cool stuff on that show.
I'm gonna watch it. I'm not gonna read the. I'm not Dave. I'm not gonna read.
Yeah, you're not gonna read the Wikipedia entry instead of watching the show.
Yeah.
The only thing that Rebels had that I didn't like was helicopter lightsabers. I'm really not into the idea of helicopter lightsabers. I mean,
I also didn't like how thin but I haven't seen the show that much, but I don't like how thin they are. But
right. Well, you can't win them all. Oh, what's this? Did Rick McCallum play the Rylothian in the prequels? Well, it's not a Rylothian, is it? I don't know. Is that what you would say? A Rylothian? Maybe. I don't know if Rick McCallum put himself in those movies. I don't think he did.
I think Rhett's correct, by the way. Resistance is clearly.
Oh, yeah. Resistance is bad. I really prefer sequel era stuff. I mean, Rhett, to each his own. I mean, this is a safe place. You're welcome to have that opinion, sir. Yeah, and very Macquarie based. This is accurate. Roth saying it's very Macquarie. That's why the lightsabers were so
I know that. I do know that. Trust me, but I mean, my father would talk about all that kind of stuff.
Yeah,
and I've seen the Macquarie drawings.
Trust me.
But I still prefer the other lightsabers.
Yeah. So
anyway,
as alluded to in the chat, this episode does take place on Ryloth. I mean, obviously we're in an era where the Empire is trying to build its strongholds on all of these different planets. And they've got a skeezy senator on their side, Orn Frita, who was voiced by Phil Lamar, who has been in and around Star Wars for quite some time. He was in the Clone Wars. He voiced a couple times Jar Jar.
Okay.
During the Clone Wars era, there was a couple times where he voiced Jar Jar. So I thought that was cool that he's back as Orn Free Taa.
There was a couple times when I was watching Clone Wars, I went, "Wow, this is a really bad impression." Jar Jar. That's probably him.
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah. I don't know. That's a good question, Roth. I could have certainly looked that up, and if Nick had been here already, I'm sure he would have been able to tell us if he voiced, him in Clone Wars. I'm sure he had to have. That they usually don't. I mean, even with Hera, I mean, to say it's the same voice actress, even though she's playing a much younger Hera, she is still, able to voice the character, just as they did with Caleb Doom, as they had, same guy on doing his voice. Can't remember his name off the top of my head, which is horrible. Very famous person that voiced Caleb Doom, that I can't remember. But anyways, the episode was on Ryloth. Orn Free Taa is on there. He's trying to let the Empire know that the people would listen more to Cham Syndulla.
Yes.
So Cham Syndulla was a character that was introduced to us, obviously, a little bit in the Clone Wars, a little bit in Rebels. He's sort of, at that time, kind of working, a little bit with the clone army to fight off the separatists. And so he has a relationship with the clones that is a little bit different, just kind of what we saw in this particular episode. He trusts the clones, and felt like they had his best interest in heart, which we find out throughout the episode that one particular clone kind of did, and was very conflicted at some of the things that he had to do.
Yeah, he was a bit in denial because he trusted the clone so much.
Mm-hmm.
And the clone still had obviously, like you said, that clone still had a great relationship with him, even with the inhibitor chip on, because he's not a Jedi. So.
Yeah, and that's what was, and that's an interesting thing that we can discuss. I mean, we think, oh, they've got these inhibitor chips. They're immediately not going to have any loyalty to anybody. Their mission is going to be to kill all Jedi, and they're sort of robots from this point on. Well, that's not the case. I mean, this clone was very conflicted about some of the things that Orn Free Taa was telling him to do, that the Empire was telling him to do, because he did have that relationship with Cham Syndulla and Elena Syndulla. They were friends. I mean, which was great.
Feared for the clone's life, because I mean, if you are very vocal as he was about about not doing some of these things that he was being asked to do, in an empire like that, they will dispose of you pretty easily.
Yeah, and again, I mean, we're still not. I don't think we're still seeing like Rampart be fully ruthless. We get to see some of that towards the end of the episode, where he's sort of hatches this plan, to frame, the Syndullas for the attempted, and we can discuss that attempted assassination of Orn Free Taa. I have to put this up. This is great. Orn Free Taa is Harry Knowles of the Republic Senate. Yes.
I love Ain't It Cool News, guys.
Yeah. Well, is it even still around? I haven't gone on there. Is it not? I haven't gone on there in years. Know. If it is, it's not with Harry Knowles, that's for sure. But yeah, Orn Free Taa has always been sort of a scuzz bucket. I mean, even when he was in the prequel, I mean, he was just always just a skeevy dude who only had his interests at heart. He never really had, and here we go. We have got the man, the myth, the legend, Nick, Podcast of the Wills. What's up, buddy?
Thanks for letting me be late, guys.
You've saved it.
No, you said, we're in the midst of trying to fumble our way through the Bad Batch. So I'm glad that you're here.
Well, and I was listening in the car as I was picking my kids up from play practice.
Right on.
And I heard the brief discussions about Rebels, and we don't have enough time for you to let me talk about Rebels, because I will say definitively, and first of all, Rhett, good to see you too. But aside from, or along with The Last Jedi, Star Wars Rebels is the best of the Disney era Star Wars storytelling.
Whoa.
The story is phenomenal. And the first couple of episodes, it gives you a little bit of that, it feels like a kid show and whatever. It is, and this is the thing, and we say this on different shows all the time. Mm-hmm. Star Wars Rebels, or Dave Filoni and Star Wars and the things that he does. Dave Filoni is so good at giving us a Star Wars thing that is not about the thing that it's titled. And so, like, Star Wars Rebels has this thing of like, oh, it's going to be about the beginning of the rebellion. Star Wars Rebels is a phenomenal Jedi story, is what it really ends up being over the course of the arc of the whole thing. I'm such a sucker for Ralph McQuarrie, and so much of that art is used in that animation style. Zeb is concept art Chewbacca, and Chopper is concept art R2-D2. Like, there's so many callbacks and nods, and and of course the connections to what we're talking about right now with the Bad Batch. We got young Kanan in that first episode, and now we have Hera and Chopper. And yeah, I agree with Brian, and like the Force aspects as you get later into the later seasons, like it really does grow quickly, and it becomes something that pretty early on. I guess I'm just trying to sell it to Garrison at this point. But it picks up, but it very quickly becomes something that I truly love it. I've probably seen it 4 or 5 times, and it is some of my absolute favorite new Star Wars that they've made.
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, it's certainly, I wouldn't say like it's at all skippable. I think that you need to watch it. Resistance, sure, you can skip it.
I would say, full disclosure, I was just having this conversation with somebody yesterday. I watched the first couple of episodes of Resistance, and it was fine. It doesn't, but I do at some point want to go back and watch it, because I do know there's some, early Resistance stories and, tie-ins to The Force Awakens and wherever that, fits in that timeline, maybe right after. I know that Poe shows up in BB-8 and some of that stuff, but
they definitely did not get to do the full series that they wanted to do. They wanted to have at least another 2 seasons, I think, or they had that planned out. I mean, and I think even some of those voice actors really thought that they were doing 4 seasons of the show. I think, so they didn't get to tell the whole story, which is fine. I mean, there was grander plans afoot, as we found out pretty quickly. But I mean, some of the goings on in this particular episode, we had mentioned Orn Free Taa has always been sort of a scuzz bucket. He's sort of just this skeevy, conniving political guy, which that's a theme within Star Wars. That most of the politicians do not have the right type of idea of things, and he's just out for himself. He's going to do whatever the Empire tells him to do. Now, I would venture to say they probably didn't tell him the plan with the attempted assassination, and we can go ahead and talk about that real quick, because I think there was some confusion that the character is not dead. This was just an attempted assassination,
right?
I think, and they even say that. I think that Rampart.
He says attempted assassination, but it was very bright in my room watching a very dark show, so I thought he literally got headshot. So it
looked like a headshot, but you're right. I was thrown off by the attempted assassination line that came after that.
Yeah. Sounds like somebody's car alarm's going off.
That was my car alarm. That's why I was hesitant for a minute. I don't know what was going on here.
That's all good. But yeah, I think that I think the character's still alive because, and I know that the books don't matter, but Orn Free Taa is in Lords of the Sith.
I think that's right.
Is the book
I heard that mentioned
with Darth Vader and Tarkin. And so I just, unless the storytelling group has decided just to punt the books for some of those early canon books to the curb, which I wish they would just go ahead and tell us that instead of being like ambiguous about it. Like, tell us, hey, we're swerving away from some of the things that supposedly happened in these canon books, which they've already done quite a bit in some cases, and they never say anything about it. Darth Vader and Palpatine. Yeah, sorry, Fatmatic, you're right. I forgot about that. But yeah, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, Fatmatic, that Orn Free Taa is alive in that book, which would mean he's alive after this attempted assassination. So Fetmatic's just my Wikipedia, so he can tell me if I'm right on that. But yeah, I doubt that he was told, hey, we're gonna have, you know, Crosshair, you know, look like he's gonna kill you. And it would make sense that it was an attempted assassination in the sense that Crosshair doesn't miss. I mean, he does he hits everything that he's told. He doesn't miss, basically.
Crosshair could hit some point on his body that could injure him or damage him in some way, but not kill him. Yeah, for sure.
Some people were saying it was the Leku, but really it did look like a headshot.
Yeah.
To me. I mean, it didn't look like it hit him in the Leku.
I wasn't watching it in the best of conditions, so.
Yeah, but so I think that this is another big episode just to show the beginning, a stun shot. Interesting. I didn't get that.
It looked like it left like a burn mark in this.
Yeah, it left like a burn mark.
A lot of times, especially in animation, the stun shots are always delineated by the circular
blue,
you know, kind of blue, as opposed to just the bolts.
Sound. They have a different sound.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, exactly.
But yeah, there's something there. I think he may still be alive.
I think he's alive. I mean, if they're going to stick with the canon of the book or whatever, that he's still alive, the guy's still alive, I think. But yeah, you know, obviously for Clone Wars fans, it was a big deal to get to see Cham Syndulla again, Elena Syndulla. You know, they're a huge part of Clone Wars, and then really into Rebels, because we get to see Hera and Chopper. And man, I loved Rebels. I got sort of excited to see young Hera and Chopper. Chopper's a really fun character. One of the only animated characters, you know, you can count him on your hand to cross over into live action, because he was in Rogue One. Rogue One, yep. And so he did a little bit of crossover there. And yeah, so it was a good episode to see that Cham and Elena didn't necessarily know all that Hera was doing with her uncle there at the beginning. And then they quickly bought into it and even started helping, right? Yeah. I mean, which we knew they would, but, you know, Cham was trying to avoid conflict, I think. I think he had seen enough of it. He was tired of it. He probably just wanted peace on Ryloth at this point in his... And he thought perhaps the Empire could bring that to him, because... And I wonder if that's because of his trust of the clones being so trusting of the Empire. I wonder if that let his guard down a little bit. I don't know. Your thoughts on that, Nick? I mean, I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, it was kind of an interesting... For me, honestly, the biggest thing with this episode and the last episode, really, you know, I talked a lot about it at the beginning, and when I was on for the first episode, you know, in those first couple episodes, we see the setup and the beginnings of the Empire and chain codes and this transition into the Galactic the Galactic Empire, all that kind of stuff. And then these last two episodes, to me, feel like planting more of the seeds of the rebellion itself, because you have the senator leaving last week, and he wants, you know, I can't leave. I have to help my people. And the droid says, you will, but not today. Like, he's got to leave. He's got to come back. And the same thing with Hera's parents. And we kind of get some of that when they show up in Rebels. And of course, Hera has, you know, gone her own path, and they come back together, and there's tension there and some of that. And so to me, this again feels like sowing seeds of the early parts of the rebellion. And, you know, is Cham Syndulla, who was always known as a warrior of some sort and a military mind. But like you said, you know, is he tired of it? Is it time to, you know, try to go in a more peaceful route, but then get sucked into the rebellion? That's what I feel like these last two episodes have done as much as anything else.
Yeah, I mean, and he was, and you can sort of see that a little bit in this episode, because he's trusting. Even at the very end of the episode, he's trusting the Empire a little bit. I mean, he's like, we're going to give up. We're going to turn ourselves over to the Empire and try and do this peacefully. You know, of course, Rampart had other ideas, but I mean...
He's trusting, but he's very conflicted the entire time. I mean, you could you could see it on his face.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I think that obviously now he's going to be, okay, that we're going to be against everything that the Empire is doing.
Yeah.
But it took something a bit drastic in the form of being framed for an attempted assassination of the senator, to sort of wake him up fully to the realization that the Empire is evil incarnate, basically. We got to see a little bit of the Bad Batch in this episode, a little bit of Omega, which is, what now? Yeah, exactly. 3 minutes, is that what you clocked in? Yeah, I mean, this is great. Or Dr. Earl giving you a shout out.
That is a high honor indeed. I will take that one, Dr. Earl.
I love that.
And can I talk about this scene for a minute with Omega?
Yeah, please do.
The Bad Batch shows up, and I really wondered, because it was a little over halfway through, and I really wondered, were they going to give us a Bad Batch free episode? We had episode 6 or whatever it was of Mandalorian where there was no Grogu, and so I felt like they have floated these different things along the way just to mess with expectation a little bit, storytelling, whatever it was. So when we did get that little shot of them, of course, that was fun. Like, oh, okay, here's the Bad Batch part. But as a parent, and especially as the father of a child right now who desperately wants to be a pilot, Omega showing Hera around the Havoc Marauder gave me chills. Because the introduction scene we get to Hera is her laying in the grass with her hand up and looking at the birds or whatever they are. And again, just the dad batch moment as to throw out to your shirt. The parenting things that Star Wars has been doing with this series, with The Mandalorian, it's really been, from a parental standpoint, really powerful to me on several levels. And so I really, really love that scene. And her, you want to see my favorite part. And she went and shows her, this is my room. That's such a kid thing to do. I have kids, and that's what kids do. Hey, you want to come see my room? That's what I did when I was a kid. I just love those kind of parental human moments again in this animated series, which is phenomenal. And those shots of the sky, again, my weekly rant about how beautiful the animation is.
So awesome. It does look so great.
But yeah, there's just something about that scene with two kids. Hey, do you want to see this ship? And, can I show her around? Sure, go ahead. Just all of it. Loved it.
Well, and it's, of course, planting the seed for us for the next episode. I mean, of Hera having the knowledge that the Bad Batch exists and Omega exists. That's obviously who she's going to be reaching out to. It's the only people she knows to reach out to at this point. So maybe she has Sid's contact information, contact Sid to get the A-team to come help.
To maybe rescue on Ryloth?
Yeah, I think maybe that will be rescue on a rescue on Ryloth. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I mean, Fetmatic, totally. Ryloth looking amazing, especially at night. Yeah, I mean, this whole team that's working on this show is so uber talented. It's ridiculous that anybody would scoff at watching this show. I mean, just because it's an animated show. It's so great. Everything's great about the show in that sense. Some of that animation looks better than some live action shows that we get on the CW. I mean, come on.
Oh, yeah.
But yeah, a couple of other highlights for me is anytime Chopper and Hera were hanging out together.
Yes.
I loved Chopper driving the speeder to come, pick up Hera. I just love that concept of a droid coming to save the day, and Chopper in the credits, of course, it's like Chopper as himself, which we all of us know that's Dave Filoni doing the voice of Chopper. Spoiler alert if you didn't know that. But yeah, I love everything about that character just because it's a character that I know Dave Filoni loves.
Mm-hmm.
And so the sassy droid is just something that Dave Filoni loves to support and create that type of thing.
And I think the other thing that was fun kind of from a trivia / tidbit standpoint was Vanessa Marshall was back to voice Hera.
Yep.
And I think that certainly went off way better than having Freddie Prinze be young Kanan. No offense to Freddie Prinze Jr., but I think we were all thrown off by the deep baritone 11-year-old Kanan. But so that was great that Vanessa Marshall did that. But of course, the thing that you saw a bunch of people kind of losing their mind about during the day that day after the episode had come out was the French accent. And that was a thing that and it threw me off initially for a minute too. But in Rebels, and in fact, Jacob said it in the chat just now, there's a thing where the arc where Hera meets up with her parents or with her dad.
Yeah.
And the dad makes a comment at one point. He said, and you even got rid of your accent because that's a Ryloth, accent essentially. And she loses it, so she doesn't have it in Rebels. And he kind of calls her out for, you left and changed and left your heritage behind and you got rid of your accent. But then they get in a heated argument and it comes back. And she, it's like any of us who get back with all of our country, family, Alabama kinfolk and start dropping our, all of our vowels and consonants and getting into slang mode. Right. It happens in the show. So it really wasn't that out of character. But for everybody who forgot those 2 episodes or 1 episode where it happens, it was disjointed for everybody to be like, why does she sound like Pepe Le Pew? Or, but she's a kid and she grew up there and she hadn't been to that point where that part of her personality had shifted or whatever.
Well, and I mean, I think that at least from what I gathered, she had not really been off world that often.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I think the picture we get is she longs for the sky and space and all of that, but she hasn't gotten there yet. And I think that tour of the Marauder, bad choice, sorry. That tour of the Marauder just helps to feed that desire to be a pilot and, to see all of that.
Yeah, exactly. So, I mean, all in all, I think it was a great episode. I think that it's setting up some cool stuff for the next episode, obviously. And who knows, this could be a 3-parter. I don't know how far the Ryloth arc is going to take us. There's not many episodes left of the show. We think 16. That's what IMDb has said.
16 is what we were told.
Yeah, 16 is what IMDb. Well, I don't know that we were ever told that other than it was on IMDb.
It was in an article drop at one point that it was going to be 16.
I'm pretty sure it's 16.
And it is still 16 here. And we have titles up through 14.
Yes.
Which I think a lot of people are confused by that. Well, like the leak of the titles up until 14.
Why.
Oh, okay.
Because they dropped the titles through July. And then there are 2 more episodes in August. They haven't put out the full August schedule yet, which they drop in August.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah, because next is the Rescue on Ryloth, like you said.
Mm-hmm.
13 is Infested, and then 14 is War Mantle, which is going to get us something that was teased at the very beginning.
Right.
With, what's the officer's yeah. Totally blanking on the officer, but
no, Roth. I'm not. No, Roth. No, I think there's 16 episodes.
He's doing that font. That's a sarcastic font.
I know. That's the comic book guy from The Simpsons font. But again, I mean, I think it's been a great show so far. I'm really looking forward to what happens in Rescue on Ryloth because that gives us more Hera, more Chopper. That gives us Hera, Chopper, and the Bad Batch working together, and Omega working together to rescue Cham and Elena. I'm guessing that's got to be part of it.
Yeah.
So that's going to take us to. I think I said it for episode 4. Episode 5, probably my favorite episode of Loki. Journey into Mystery. Good grief, a lot happened in this episode, and it's was packed full. I know, Ryfin, you have about 10 pages of notes, so we can talk about that. Yeah, exactly. I will be frank. I was on vacation, so I really have not had a chance to do many notes this week. I did catch it a second time, but it was just like a really quick watch through with subtitles. So.
I've seen it once and I have 0 notes, so
I love it. No, hey, from week to week, sometimes that happens. I mean, it's it is what it is as far as that's concerned. But Ryfin, take us through some of this episode with some of the notes that you've taken.
Okay.
And just do it kind of like chronological to the episode because a lot happened throughout the episode.
First off, Journey into Mystery is the name of the comic that Thor and Loki first appeared in, and also became the comic that was Thor. So Thor actually got the numbering from Journey into Mystery, which is why Fantastic Four, which is considered the start of the Marvel Universe, Thor actually had a higher number count because Journey into Mystery was already a comic before that, and they just turned it into Thor. So I thought that was an interesting Easter egg to put for the title of the episode. And it is a journey into mystery.
It is.
Very much.
Very much so.
We open on a spinning camera that goes into the elevator doors, a really cool shot tracking across the room into the little hourglass-shaped symbols on the door, which must mean something, I guess. I guess maybe we'll find out.
Yeah.
But not that big a deal. We get more theremin. Cuts to...
of course.
Cuts to the timekeeper room where we see a head, the head that we saw last week. Cuts to the void. We see the expanse of the void.
Yes.
We see Alioth, I guess. Alioth, the supreme time being, who Kang created a barrier preventing Alioth from entering his domain in the comics.
In the comic, yeah. In the comic.
Yes.
Yeah.
And we see Loki team up with classic Loki, Kid Loki, boastful Loki, and alligator Loki. And that is how we start our episode.
Yes.
And he says, that thing is a Loki.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. So, since you mentioned the theremin, I watched the credits, obviously. Where in the heck was Wonderwall used? Because they cited Wonderwall by Oasis.
Oh, wow.
I don't remember that song being... And I've watched it twice. I do not remember that song being used at all, but they cited Wonderwall.
Pick up a classical song they used, but it was very obvious at one point. We'll get to that later.
Okay. So, anyways, Wonderwall's apparently in the episode somewhere.
Yeah, we get the Well, it cuts back to Sylvie at this point where she's holding Renslayer at spear point, essentially.
Yeah.
And she reveals that Loki isn't dead. So apparently Renslayer actually does know. I know last week we assumed that Renslayer didn't know that they were not dying. Apparently she does know that they're not dying. But I don't know.
I still think she's clueless about a lot of stuff, though.
She seems pretty clueless, but she's definitely clued into certain things that we don't know.
Yeah,
right.
I'm still thrown off by that because in that episode last week, she goes to see them at the beginning, and it seems very like she's nervous and she's going by herself, and nobody goes with her. But I guess it is, it could be the play to the outside, and when she gets in the elevator in the room, and it's just her, kill some time, go back out, pretend like it was a big deal. I don't know, but that sold me last week that maybe she wasn't fully in on it. But like you said, then we get to this.
Yeah.
And she's like, no, he's at the end of the line hanging out with all the rest of the garbage that we throw away.
And then she says, I want to know who's behind this too. And at the beginning of the episode, at that point, when she says she knows where Loki is, and she says, I want to know who's behind this as well, I'm like, well, she's just lying. She knows who's behind this at this point. But then later in the episode, not to fully jump to that point,
no, you're fine.
But later in the episode, she's still, while they're all gone, she's still trying to figure out who's behind the TVA. So.
Yeah. I think that she thought the timekeepers were real. I totally think that she thought the timekeepers were real, but knew about the void. Basically,
note, I hope Jacob is kidding because it's in the opening credits.
Oh, well, we don't want to spoil. I know Nick hasn't seen the movie yet, so I don't want to necessarily.
That's right.
I think I'm
going to fix that tomorrow night. So
no Black Widow spoilers in the chat, please. But yeah. I mean, it's in the trailer. It's in one of the trailers, I think.
Is it?
It's in one of the trailers.
Possibly.
Renslayer, of course. She explains that Loki's at the end of time, and says nothing ever comes back from there. So of course they will. It cuts back to the Lokis who are explaining how they have. Their plan to survive all this, which is pretty much just don't die, as our Loki says. They then get to a really dark moment in the episode where Kid Loki explains his Nexus event. Do you know what his Nexus event was?
Well, now I thought that he said that he killed Thor.
Yeah.
Yes.
That was his Nexus event, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, that's
his
pretty
Nexus
dark.
Event was killing Thor.
Killing Thor. Yeah, that's pretty dark.
Now, in the comics, Kid Loki is not like a literal... He is a kid version of Loki, but he's like sort of a reincarnated vessel for the old version of Loki to take over at a certain point.
That sounds very comic-like.
So I am wondering if it's that version of Kid Loki or if it's literally just a child version of Loki from the past. And I'm guessing they're just going for a child version of Loki.
Yeah, I mean, and I'm almost like the only reason they had that character was so he could provide a sword to our Loki at some point.
Of course.
I mean, like that's the only reason they had this character in there, so he could, make that sword appear.
He is a young Avenger.
Oh, okay.
And there have been a lot of young Avenger members brought up throughout these Disney Plus shows so far. Eli Bradley, the twins in WandaVision, which will become a thing in real life, most likely. And I, we'll see more as the shows go along, I'm sure.
I thought I liked what that actor did with the character, so I wouldn't mind some more young Loki. I'm cool. Or Kid Loki, sorry.
Rhett's going out of chronological order, but we can talk about the Philadelphia experiment.
Yeah, I mean, the USS Eldridge, a real thing, Philadelphia experiment. Yeah, exactly.
This show has done a lot of explaining unsolved mysteries. Mm-hmm. You have DB Cooper, you've got the Philadelphia experiment. I'd love it if there is a season 2, which there is purported to maybe be. Right. I'd love for them to keep exploring that kind of thing in just minor ways, like we've seen the little DB Cooper scene and the little Philadelphia experiment scene. Yeah. That would be a lot of fun.
Yeah, let's go ahead and knock out all the Easter egg stuff then.
Yes.
I mean,
well, and that's where we get to the Thanos copter right after that conversation.
Yeah, the Thanos copter.
Which is from a really silly Spider-Man comic in Marvel Comics. We get to the lair. As we get to the lair, we see Throg.
Yes,
Which we mentioned last week on the Deucecast Extra. Throg in his jar that says T365, which is his first appearance in the comics.
His first appearance. Mm-hmm. Yep.
And he's trying to reach for that giant Mjolnir. I don't really understand how that works, but
yes.
All right.
Well, he's Throg. He can wield the Mjolnir.
Clearly worthy.
And the director revealed that Chris Hemsworth voiced those grunts.
Yes,
I know. I love that. It's awesome. I mean, I love that little tidbit. Yeah,
it's great. It's also great because apparently one of the writers also said they had a bigger plan for Throg at one point to be a captured variant at the TVA that attacks Loki at one point. I guess because in the comics, Throg is literally our main Thor gets enchanted into a frog.
Yeah.
He's probably not really happy about Loki. I'm sure that was supposed to be the dynamic there, but they decided to remove it.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
Like they shot it, didn't they?
I don't know.
I feel like I read something that like they had shot it or it had gotten to some point of like, and then they just decided, it doesn't really work.
The VFX though.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Maybe we'll get to see that answered in 2 weeks.
The director series after it's over with.
Well, they do the assembled episode.
That's right. Assembled.
Yeah, they'll have that assembled episode. So maybe they'll talk about it. I mean,
which side note, did y'all see they dropped the news today that they're going to do the Luke Mandalorian behind the scenes?
Yes.
I got to tell you just a quick away from Loki. I was really disappointed when I watched the Mandalorian episode just because I really wanted to see something about Luke Skywalker. They
obviously had plans.
Yeah. So I'm glad that
I think they're trying to fill in a couple Wednesdays before What If.
That's right.
I think that's basically what they're doing.
Strategic drops along the way.
Yeah, I mean,
because I did like the gallery episode for season 2.
Oh my gosh,
George Lucas and all the directors.
Yeah.
But
I was disappointed that it was only one episode because the first season was as many as there was Mando episodes.
When it was over, I was like, we had no Luke. Like that's the biggest part of the season. And I'm satisfied now. That's why OJ blacked out.
That's right. That's right.
He got cream too.
And then he unblacks out, and there's blood everywhere, and he's holding a knife.
That's awesome.
Anyway,
sorry.
We cut back to the TVA, and Renslayer is stalling with Miss Minutes, lying about having
okay, so let's talk about Miss Minutes.
Spacecraft, but it very much Miss Minutes is she knows a lot more than Renslayer.
Yeah, I think that Miss Minutes is evil. I mean, there's some evilness, and I never got that until just this episode. She's like more than just a computer program. I mean, it's interesting. I think she might be right in line
sentient.
with. Yeah, I think she is working directly for whomever.
Yes.
is going to be in this series. You know,
computer programs don't know to lie and stall for guards to come.
Right.
You know, without there being some sort of AI or sentient part of that character.
Yeah, totally. I mean, I found that to be interesting in the sense that I guess she was having that one conversation with Loki when he was sitting at the desk that sort of indicated that maybe she could have just a normal conversation with somebody, because he was sort of toying with her a little bit when he was sitting at the desk in that one episode. So yeah, I mean, maybe we should have got the hint at that point that, hey, maybe this character isn't just some computer program. You know? Yeah, exactly.
The guards bust in at that point. The guards bust in at that point. You know, Renslayer says that she can surrender and be trapped in a good memory prison, and asks if she even has a good memory. And Sylvie says, I have one good memory.
And that's when she decides to prune herself, basically.
Yes, and I think alluding to the fact that her one good memory is potentially with Loki at that Nexus event, I think is supposed to be the implication.
Yeah,
that's how I interpreted it as well. I mean, obviously, though, she's got some other good memories because she remembers, you know, her mom a little bit.
Yeah,
I mean, she even said that earlier, but very young. But I don't know. But yeah, we're supposed to get that. That's, you know, when she was hanging out with Loki, she had a good memory there. So that's fine. I mean, you know, it's my whole thing with that is, how did she know? I guess that Renslayer told her, hey, this is, you know, where you go, you don't really die.
Yeah, you go to the end of time. Yeah.
So she trusted Renslayer at least not to lie about that, and took the risk, basically.
Yes. And she stole the temp pad and took the risk.
That's right. This minute's is Mephisto. Exactly.
Yeah. She stole the temp pad. And hey, look, we've got our Mephisto on this show, though I think it's very different.
Yeah.
We'll get to that when we get
here's my big fear. Well, we'll talk about it when we get towards the end of the episode.
Again, Sylvie self prunes with the temp pad to be able to get back, although she gives it to someone and he goes away with it. But but that'll be resolved in some way.
Yeah.
Then we have the Lokis. We cut to the Lokis kind of sitting around trading glory stories.
Yes.
You know, boastful Loki is lying about
completely lying. Yeah.
Taking down the Avengers and getting all 6 Infinity Stones and and Alligator. We find out about Alligator Loki's Nexus event, and which is him eating a neighbor's cat. I think they said.
Right, something like that.
I didn't even write that one down, but yeah.
Yeah, that was what it was.
I really liked, though, classic Loki.
Yeah.
Because classic Loki is our Loki, but what if he faked a projection of himself to getting killed by the Mad Titan, and then went off and lived his life elsewhere and was still alive. But then when he tried to leave and come back to civilization and come back to his brother, who he missed, which I thought was interesting, not unlike the character at that point in his journey, he was pruned by the TVA and arrested by the TVA and pruned. So yeah,
exactly.
And that's been kind of a little bit of a fan theory is what if he faked his death in that situation in Infinity War, and I think it would kind of lessen that scene.
I think no.
So I'm glad that our Loki definitely died there, and that the show's our Loki in the show is a little bit different anyway.
Yeah, and I feel like they confirmed that even in this show with him watching that scene at the beginning and having to watch his own death, and you know the power of all that whole thing. I think that is what I think that one sticks.
Richard E. Grant is having a lot of fun as Klaus.
Oh gosh, he's totally into it.
He's way into it. How envious are you of the dude that gets to be in Star Wars and Marvel basically within like a 3-year period? Yeah. I mean, also, that's pretty awesome.
Isn't he a Shakespearean actor too?
Oh yeah. No, he's classically trained for sure. I mean, the dude has been around forever. I mean, he was doing some great British comedy with the guy that was oh gosh. What was that show on Fox? The British doctor. I can't remember it. Yeah, he did a lot of stuff with that actor. back in the day. Yeah. And so he's been around a long time. Yeah.
This, though, right here, this is my favorite part of the episode because it kind of ties together the entire episode. Classic Loki said, "Blades are worthless in the face of a Loki sorcery."
Mm-hmm.
This started to become sort of almost a Loki's Ragnarok in the sense that in Ragnarok, Thor gets told that he's not the god of hammers. He's the god of thunder. He has a lot more power than he realizes. And in this episode, Loki is pretty much presented the same story. He has a lot more power than Loki realizes. Our Loki has used daggers for a lot of his time on screen and stuff like that, and other things like the Mind Stone that help him, take over other.
Well, yeah, he's so used to just conjuring whatever he needs. I mean, he doesn't think about what his potential is.
He is so much more powerful. Yeah, I love that. Unlocking that in Loki. Of course, Loki has his "if it lives, it dies" moment with Eliath, and that all the Lokis laugh at him. Cuts to Sylvie waking up in the void and being rescued by Mobius, which I'm sure a lot of people love that moment, seeing Mobius alive.
Oh man, and
we already knew.
Owen Wilson's so good in this series. He just had just the small stuff they give him to do. He owns every bit of it. I mean, he's just so good at just delivering the lines and just that one moment. Well, we'll get to that. When he uses the temp pad.
I need to start skipping around some of these.
No, you're fine. You're fine.
Sylvie, she slightly enchants Eliath as she's running by, which kind of leads her to the idea that she can enchant Eliath. That cuts to our Loki, where they find out that boastful Loki has betrayed the group after President Loki comes in.
And those are all Lokis, right? I mean,
yes, I think a bunch of them at least are Lokis, if they're not all Lokis. But yeah, I'm pretty sure they're all Lokis. Boastful Loki betrays the group, then President Loki betrays boastful Loki.
Right. It's all just a bunch of backstabbing.
His group betrays him.
Right. Exactly.
And then at that point, Alligator Loki bites off. He Captain Hook's President Loki.
Yeah,
he bites off his hand.
Yeah, it's all just great stuff
for Disney Plus. I was a little bit surprised.
Man, we're getting Captain and Winter Soldier had all kinds of crazy stuff in it.
I forgot about that.
Yeah. So
a fight ensues. Classic Loki creates projections of everyone so they can all escape. And I noticed in the projections, and I've seen some other people bring this up, but I noticed at the time that Kid Loki does get help with Alligator Loki. If you remember what get help is, get help from Thor Ragnarok when they're in the elevator and he throws Loki at the
guard.
Kid Loki takes the alligator and he does the same thing.
Yeah,
hilarious.
The projection of Kid Loki throws the projection of the alligator.
Of the alligator Loki. Yeah.
As they
there was just a lot going on in this episode.
A ton. Did you notice Kid Loki was drinking Ecto Cooler?
No,
when they were sitting around and
I
drinking
didn't notice
wine.
it I did notice it when I watched the episode, but I saw somebody mention it online.
Yeah, I caught that, and then some of them, the other ones were drinking like the Rock's Cart wine. So Rock's Cart continued to hang around.
Yeah.
And then two of the other out and about things, like we saw, you saw the Dark Aster, or a ship like the Dark Aster, which was Ronin's ship.
Yes,
the big kind of 8-shaped.
You saw a Ronin Kree ship, a
Kree ship, and then there was also the big, like, gigantic Yellow Jacket mask, or the helmet. Yeah.
Well, I can go through all of. There's some more than that. I mean, it's a large Yellow Jacket helmet.
Yeah, it was a big one.
Yeah, which we know that Corey Stoll is going to be back in Ant-Man 3 in some capacity, is what Variety said.
Interesting.
You had a helicarrier with a Hydra logo.
Mm-hmm.
You had Red Skull's ship in the void.
Good grief!
You had a living tribunal statue head.
Okay.
Which is a comic character that I really don't know that well, but I know of the name.
Yeah.
And you had Kang Tower instead of Stark Tower.
I did see that. Yeah.
And that's most.
So what was that? The big shield? What was that? Was that supposed to be a big cap shield, or what was that?
I don't even know what you're talking about.
I thought there was a massive shield also that was in the episode. It looked like just a big rock shield. All right, and Rhett keeps trying to bring this up. What I don't know what what is that?
Oh, there was a Burger Chef in there as well.
Burger Chef. I've got some Star Wars Burger Chef posters.
Which
all right, here it is. This is for Rhett and for Mikey. In the background behind Horn Loki in the Loki lair is the arcade Polybius. Polybius is seen as an urban legend that emerged in early 2000, including a fictitious 80s arcade game. The legend describes the game as part of a government-run, crowdsourced psychology experiment in Portland, Oregon during 1981. Gameplay supposedly produced intense psychoactive and addictive effects in the player.
Yeah.
Okay. That's interesting.
Yeah, I did
right up Rhett's alley.
I didn't realize that was in the episode, but I knew about that urban legend. Yeah,
that's interesting. Yeah, and we mentioned the Thanos copter already. So
yes, yeah, I was gonna say we already mentioned the Thanos copter. Yeah, that's at the beginning of the episode.
Mm-hmm.
We cut back to Sylvie and Morbius, who Sylvie tells him to head back to Eliath. At that point, we cut back to the Lokis, who don't really have a plan. See the Philadelphia experiment ship show up in front of them and get consumed immediately, and and realize that they're kind of they're in a really bad situation with their current plan.
Well, that did tip them off that he always goes for the biggest thing. Like Eliath always goes for the biggest thing in front of him. So that kind of leads us to what classic Loki does later on.
Yeah, and what our Loki does at the beginning of that fight.
Yeah.
Where he runs to be kind of the distraction because he understands that there has to be a distraction. But his distraction wasn't big enough, obviously. Sylvie and Morbius meet up with the Lokis. Sylvie explains her plan. We cut to Renslayer at that point. I don't know if you want to talk about she wanted to enchant Eliath,
Yeah.
But we cut back to Renslayer, and she talks to Hunter B-15 about what drives Sylvie, and we get the line, "You only want it, but she needs it." Which is a powerful point about Sylvie's motor out in the void right now. She's willing to do anything to bring down whoever is controlling the TVA. I was gonna say that is when Renslayer gets Miss Minutes to get the files on the founding of the TVA, which again tells you that she doesn't know.
She doesn't know.
Running.
She's still figuring it out.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I think she's completely clueless. And to your point about Sylvie, we get that moment in the episode where she's still kind of hesitant with Loki, and she's like, "You're not going to betray me, are you?" I'm wondering, to your point, if she wants to do anything possible to take down the TVA, if she could potentially betray Loki at some point. I wonder if that's what they're doing there by having them even have that conversation. And then, I don't know. I just worry that things are not going to go well in this episode that starts in a few hours.
4 hours.
Exactly.
Under 4 hours, I guess, now.
Exactly.
Yeah, the problem with that to me, though, is the literal next conversation we get when it cuts back to the camps, and Mobius talks to the Lokis, and they have a fun conversation about, whether or not the alligator Loki is a Loki. But then it cuts back to Loki and Sylvie having a conversation out in the fields about their plan, and Sylvie's so much about their friendship. I mean, that's the first friend they've ever had.
Yeah.
So I don't know that she would betray him, and I don't know that he would betray her either, because he seems very much like a changed man. Maybe
he is for sure. Yeah.
Maybe there'll be a vision to trick one of them or something. I don't know, but yeah, I don't foresee either one of them willingly betraying the other in their current states.
Right. Yeah. Well, okay. I can see that.
Maybe if there is another Loki that shows up and she confuses him for our Loki or something, and he betrays her at that point, I could see something like that, but I don't foresee it right now.
Yeah. I mean, so like kind of jumping to the battle. I mean, we get the huge moment, a big moment, I think, where classic Loki pretty much comes to save the day.
Yes.
He takes out or he distracts Eliath by creating what looked like Asgard, right? I mean, it was like a replication of Asgard.
He conjured Asgard. Yeah,
which is mega. That's like, he's pretty powerful.
That points to the power of Loki. That points to how powerful Loki is. He just doesn't realize it.
Yeah, exactly.
And at that moment, that's where the classical piece begins. You hear "Flight of the Valkyries" starting to play in the background when he comes up. And that's the piece of music I heard. I guess I have to go back and try to find out where Wonderwall is.
It's not there. I promise you, it's not there. But it's at the very end of the credits. They give a shout out to Wonderwall, and I'm like, "What? Did I miss something? I don't remember that at all."
I mean, it had to unless it was some capacity.
It must have been playing in the layer really softly or something. That's the only thing I can think, that it was playing in the layer. But I don't know. It's very strange.
I'm researching. Keep talking.
Yeah.
Also, since we're at the battle, I'll just go ahead and get to it. He becomes the big distraction. It's a great moment where he's saying "glorious purpose" as he's about to be swallowed and laughing.
Yeah, maniacally.
Because
maniacal laugh.
He's fulfilled his glorious purpose. He's actually helped someone.
Yeah.
Loki's can change. Loki's can be good.
Oh, Roth makes a good point. It might have been cut, but they still had to give credit to it in the credits. That's a good point.
All right. Here's an article from Tech Radar.
Oh, okay.
That says playing in the Loki's lair is the Mike Flowers pop, easy listening 1996 take on Oasis hit Wonderwall.
There you go.
That it was like an elevator, grocery store, Muzak version playing in the lair while they're sitting around. So after we get done, we'll have to go throw that scene up and
I need to look
see if you can catch it. And of course, it gives me that vibe from what's HBO, the future?
Watchmen.
No, the one that's based on the 70s. Westworld. Yeah, Westworld.
Yeah.
All the piano versions of the modern songs in Westworld and all that stuff.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I love that. I love that so much.
Yeah, it's in the Loki layer,
which is an underground bowling alley.
Yes.
Oh, okay, that makes sense.
I don't know if you noticed that it's literally an underground bowling alley.
That's funny. So yeah, I mean, we basically see classic Loki distract Eliath enough for Sylvie and Loki to
hold hands,
and then Loki figures out how much power he has at that point. Yes. And he does, because he's at first, of course, I can't do it, and she's like, yes, you can, as happens in every yeah, exactly, as happens in every single show ever. And he does it, and of course we see the big reveal of a castle.
Yes.
And
that is where our big bad will be. Obviously, the big bad of the show.
Yeah, and
or
we talk about or will it? Yeah, we can talk about that. Yeah, I mean, I think that there's going to be some people disappointed because I don't think we're getting Kang in this series. I don't think it's happening. Okay. I'll throw it out there. I don't think it's happening.
Okay, well, I will say I think it's very much happening, but maybe not in the capacity that some people think.
Okay. You're thinking. I'll say this. I'm not thinking we're going to see Jonathan Majors as Kang in this series.
Oh, I think if anyone's playing Kang, it's Jonathan Majors.
No, I just mean that if we see Kang, it'll be like
the Thanos forearm, Doctor, what's his name, Inspector Gadget, or something like.
It'll be like a side shot.
It won't be like fully made up. Yeah.
I think you might.
Because didn't we see in one of these previews a quick flash of King Loki?
We did, but we see in the previews several shots of a King Loki of some form. But when does Marvel ever put the secret bad guy in the trailer?
That's true. That'd be really weird if they did do that. Actually,
let me say one quick thing about the big battle. Eric Martin, who was a writer on the show, said that Tom Kaufman, who wrote the episode, who is a Rick and Morty writer, said originally in the episode all the Loki variants went to fight Eliath because they couldn't let our Loki outshine them. I
like that. I like that take at least.
Yeah. I think that's brilliant. I think if you had those guys everyone showing up at the end, President Loki and all those people that were fighting in Boastful Loki, I think that would have been great. But I'm also fine with the way they did it with classic classic Loki showing off his power and helping them.
Yeah, this is more this is kind of like what I think, like maybe just King's voice.
Yeah.
I just don't. I don't know.
We can get to who's in the castle now, because I mean that's pretty much it.
Yeah, let's do it.
Who's in the castle? I think your two prevailing theories are Kang or Immortus, or because Kang and Immortus they're both Kangs, but Immortus is the one that's more involved with the TVA and the comics, or a form of Loki, a King Loki or something like that. I think those are your two prevailing theories right now: Kang or Loki, a Kang or a Loki. Yeah,
a King Loki or Kang. Yeah,
yeah,
or a combination of both. We get a little bit of King Loki. There's always like the person you think is the big bad, but then the reveal comes.
Yeah, there's a few things. I think it could be Kang, and Kang could just be showing King Loki as a vision to our Loki, like this is what you could have if you just let me go.
Oh,
or if you don't interfere, that kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
Or it could be a King Loki reporting to a Kang that we see at the end of the episode, that kind of thing. But Kang is so involved with, I mean, like so many Easter eggs that lead to Kang, characters that lead to Kang. I mean, they're clearly setting up Kang. We know who Kang is being played by.
Mm-hmm.
We know that he's coming to the MCU in Ant-Man 3 at the latest. So, I would be very surprised if he doesn't make an appearance in some form.
I mean, I'm definitely staying up and watching the episode. I'm not going to bed.
I haven't done that for any of these, but I think tonight's the night, especially because last week, and this was a conversation I had with somebody earlier. I'd say earlier in the week. It's only Tuesday, but I feel like when Mandalorian came out, actually, I talked about this past Sunday night. We'll get to that in a minute. With Mandalorian, we kind of had this unofficial, unspoken rule that if Mandalorian dropped on Friday, you gave everybody till Monday to get there and not talk about it on the internet. And that hasn't seemed to happen lately with Bad Batch or Loki, either one. And so, as somebody who doesn't typically set an alarm or stay up to watch Loki at 2:00, I've been, I just don't get on Twitter because I know that's where, but I've seen several people like last week's stuff, stuff is popping up, whether it was Bad Batch or whatever. So yeah, tonight may be my night for this one.
Hot tip, it'll start 10 minutes before, by the way. They all start it'll start at 1:50.
Good.
Yeah.
Save me that. Area. At my age, those extra 10 minutes are crucial.
Hey, very true for me too. So
the only thing with Mandalorian was I stayed up until like 3 on the season finale. I began the episode and I went, I'm going to watch it in the morning because I just can't stay up until 4. I just didn't want to. It didn't feel like a good idea. And then I wake up and I open up Twitter and immediately the first thing that's trending is Luke Skywalker.
Exactly. Yeah, you can't. That's what the problem is with this, because the first thing that'll trend on Twitter would be like, if it was Kang, it'd be Kang or something like that.
Last week, Kang was trending and he wasn't even in the episode. So
exactly.
I think even if Kang isn't in the episode, there'll be plenty of people talking about him. So he'll be trending tomorrow.
Yeah, regardless. Yeah, and my funny story a couple weeks ago when the Bad Batch episode where Cad Bane showed up and that reveal, I didn't set an alarm for that, but by coincidence I woke up after it had dropped on Disney Plus in the middle of the night and I looked at my phone and I was like, so I put an AirPod in and I watched it on my phone, but I fell back asleep before we got to that part. And so I woke up the next morning and I was like, Bad Batch and such, and like I've seen it already. And then I saw something online. I was like, wait, what did I miss? And I went back. I fell asleep with like 10 minutes left in the show. So
yeah.
Yeah, with certain shows, it's a struggle. The struggle is real. Yeah. Trying to stay up that late, and you like fall asleep, and you wake back up, and you rewind it to try and watch it again, and you fall back asleep again. Yeah, it's happened to me.
Yeah, so, I think tonight's worth it though.
I'm going to call a shot, and I'm going to say it's going to be Immortus. I called my shot in WandaVision. I didn't think Mephisto was coming, but I totally thought that was going to be Quicksilver, and then it turned into Ralph Boner, and I was like, "Dang it!"
So you think it's this amorphous character that nobody's going to know?
Immortus,
whatever.
Yes.
Exactly. I'm proving my point that nobody's really going to know. Like, I mean, obviously,
if it's Jonathan Majors, people will know who that is.
Well, and even if by
Will they,
name,
though? I don't know.
I know who Kang the Conqueror is, but that's the line. Like that's where it
exactly
stops. Like
same here.
I don't know Kang, I don't know Immortus,
Right.
I don't know, and because I've never been a comic books person,
Yeah,
and
I'm the same way.
you know, it just I grew up with Superman and Batman. Like those were my two growing up comic things. And honestly, I got into Marvel because of Iron Man 1 and Robert Downey Jr. at the movie theater. It was so freaking good. But I have always been a MCU person. Like it hasn't propelled me as much as I love these movies to go back and read the comics because that's awesome. That's just not my game.
Yeah, I'm the same way.
I would actually say that the MCU has caused me to read Marvel comics. I actually grew like I don't want to take over too much, but
we're done anyways.
A huge DC fan. In comics, I read Wally West religiously.
Wow,
Wally West is my Flash.
That's awesome.
And I have every issue that Wally West has ever been the Flash of now. Because as a pretty much from 10 years old onward, I started collecting them. And so, and it wasn't until Iron Man, that I started getting into Marvel. And then as the movies went along, I want to read the stories that these things are based off of.
Yeah.
And I did. So
awesome.
I've gotten a little bit into Marvel, but not.
Yeah. And I guess the caveat for me is, like I said, I grew up with Burt Ward Batman. Adam West Batman, Burt Ward Robin. And then 1989, of course, Keaton, Batman, that kind of stuff. But I grew up with Superman. I grew up with Christopher Reeve Superman. Like those were my two superheroes. And so in the 90s, when they did the Death of Superman arc, that was and my dad loves Superman to this day, is still obsessed with Superman. So that summer when those came out, I had never been to comic books, anything. We spent that summer collecting those issues of that Death of Superman arc and the return with Boy Superman, John Henry Steele. And so like I have all those in a box. They're not worth anything, but that was that like part in the early 90s of like, hey, we have all these comic books. But that was my only comic books thing, was that one little Superman arc, because it felt significant at the time. They're going to kill Superman.
Yeah, same. I've got that issue. Yeah.
Funny enough, that was one of the first comics that my dad read to me, and I still remember. I was really young, but I still remember him reading that series to me. The death, the funeral, and then the
And I had like the special edition funeral one that came with the armband and the newspaper clipping.
Oh, nice.
And some of that, and I had the trade paperback that put it all into the one story. But then you had the individual, like in that in between before he comes back, which we got the black suit Superman, which we eventually get in the Snyder cut and all that stuff. But you had the boy Superman, the alien Kryptonian, like and they had all the different covers and all the different, and again, I've got them all in a box, but I check eBay periodically and they're not worth crap except
they're not
space in my house.
They're not. Yeah. The only exposure I had to anything Marvel was that 90s X-Men cartoon. That was the best cartoon. Horrible animation, but it was still like really good storytelling. And the Phoenix stuff that they did, the Phoenix saga that they did in that animated series was pretty awesome. Because obviously before that it was just like you were saying, Nick. Christopher Reeve Superman, Batman, Michael Keaton, that type of stuff. I wasn't really much of a comic guy either. So it took.
And the other part of it was, and this was probably later 90s as I was getting out of high school and getting even into college, was Batman the Animated Series. I love Batman the Animated Series, and they did some Superman versions of that too. But to give it that like, neo-noir, style, and that was very cool to me as well. But but I found the MCU because of Iron Man 1, and I've been hooked ever since.
Yeah, same summer that Dark Knight came out as well. So a great summer for the future of comic book movies, because both those movies cemented kind of huge things for comic book movies.
All that to say that I don't know if anybody's going to know Amorphous or whatever you said his name was.
Immortus.
Yeah,
whatever.
We can't even get the name right here, so everybody else is in trouble.
I do have two more questions about the show. What happens to the TVA? Because Morbius says he's going to burn it to the ground. Is that a metaphorical burn it to the ground, or is he literally going to burn it to the ground?
I think he literally wants to.
Is he going to literally light it on fire, or is
it's a figure of speech.
Or is he going to kill Renslayer and take over it and make it a different entity?
Well, I think he's going to try. I think he's going to try.
I think he wants to end it. I think he wants.
Yeah,
to free,
I think he wants it to be done.
You know, the people that are
That's
still
true,
there
all
that
the
are like him.
variants,
That
yeah.
you know, he wants to. You know, he can't return them necessarily to where they came from. But if
No.
somehow they get some version of like Matrix style freedom and consciousness or whatever, I think that's what his intention is.
Yeah,
that would be interesting to see what the resolution for that is. Second question.
Yeah.
All these shows so far have set up a movie in some way. WandaVision leads into Doctor Strange 2. Falcon and the Winter Soldier we didn't initially know this, but it led into a little bit with, well, never mind. Let me not say something.
No.
But it leads into Captain America 4, which they
that was announced. Captain America 4. Yeah.
And nothing else. And do you think
you need to say it now?
Took
my headphones off. I can't hear.
You can put it back. Do you think that Loki leads into any movies, or Ant-Man 3? If Kang, yeah, exactly, Rhett. Ant-Man 3 with Kang potentially. That I think that's a huge.
Well, I mean, that was kind of announced. I mean, Kang was announced as the villain for Quantumania.
Yeah,
right. I mean,
plus we know that there's a potential Loki season 2 as well.
Right. Yeah. I think that's more likely. I think what they're not going to do, as much as I would maybe want it to do, is put this Loki back into the MCU. I think that'd be a mistake.
Yeah, I don't want that.
Maybe have him visit down the line at some point. Be maybe. Like, but immediately no.
Yeah. I don't think. I mean, he's not going to show up in Thor: Love and Thunder. I wouldn't. In fact, I don't even think we had any shots of him on set or like.
No. He definitely didn't shoot outside because everything that was shot outside had a picture taken of it. So
exactly.
Speaking of that, did you see the quote from Taika Waititi today?
That was his craziest movie he's ever done, or something like that.
Taika Waititi recently said that Thor: Love and Thunder is the craziest thing he's ever done, and the film will bring people absolute joy. Taika Waititi said, "If I wrote down all the elements of this film, it shouldn't make sense. It's almost like it shouldn't be made. If you walked into a room and said, I want this and this and this, who's in it? These people. What are you going to call it? Love and Thunder. I mean, you'd never work again. Maybe I won't after this." Like, I want Taika Waititi to do everything forever, always going forward. And I'm so excited for that.
To Roth's point, Waldron is also writing Doctor Strange. He wrote it with Raimi and Bartlett, I think, or something. And this absolutely could lead into some sort of multiverse thing as well.
Mm-hmm.
And that also could tie into What If or something as well, potentially. Who knows?
Yeah.
So, I mean, there's all kinds of things this show could tie into.
Yeah,
it doesn't actually technically have to be one thing. But
right. Exactly. Well, yeah, Rhett's an idiot. No, but
he's not wrong.
He's not wrong, but he's an idiot. No. So I think that will cover us. I mean, because we've only got a few hours to do whatever we need to do to get prepared for this last episode. So, for at least the rest of the summer, we're going to be doing this on Tuesdays, which eventually that will kind of line up when everything starts dropping on Wednesdays on the on Disney Plus anyways. So I mean, I think they're even the Star Wars, I think everything is going to start dropping all the Wednesdays. So I think Tuesdays for a while.
Mandalorian shows on Friday.
I don't think it will, man.
I don't think they will. It's been nice to have this spread, and I think I said this last week. To be at Tuesday and go, holy crap, it's Loki Eve. And then by the time it's Thursday, like, and Bad Batch is tomorrow. Like, I'm not waiting the whole week. Like, I've got get me through the week.
If they both came out the same day, I would probably neglect Bad Batch a little bit. It would probably wait a few days. Yeah. So. Yeah.
So, we might just keep the show on Tuesdays. I mean, if Dr. Earl ever comes back, he did say Tuesdays were better for him anyways. So I'm hoping that all four of us, Nick, you're coming back again next week, by the way, because it's the season finale. I mean, we got it. And
you give me the space, I'm going to be here. So
So you've made it through the second half of the season with us, with Dr. Earl going around the world. So I think all four of us will probably, and it'll be a jam-packed episode because of that, but it's fine. I think all four of us will talk about the finale, talk about obviously Rescue on Ryloth, and we will be back. Garrison, where can the people find you on the interwebs?
You can find me on Twitter at SUPASH3 and on Letterboxd at GRyfin and on the Discast Discord. Right.
That's right. On the Deucecast Discord. Thanks for that plug. It's fun. We have a good time over there. Nick, plug your stuff.
Absolutely. The easiest place to find me on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook is at WillsPod. If you want to subscribe to the YouTube channel, it's youtube.com/podcast of the Wills. There is not a new episode of Mom See You yet. Hopefully we're going to get to that this weekend. My kids are in a play this summer, and it starts on Thursday. And so play practice and the play itself is about to wrap up in the next week and a half or 2 weeks. So hopefully we'll power through the end of the summer, crank some more episodes of that out, but we haven't had as much time. But Podcast of the Wills. If you haven't caught the episode from this past week, we had on Clayton Sandell, who used to work for ABC News, Nightline, Good Morning America. He's a huge Star Wars fan, has done some amazing stuff, and he was a delight to have on. So you can go catch that one on YouTube or on podcast. The audio version is available as well. So check that out. And then this coming Sunday, we have on a guy his name is Patrick Kottner, and Patrick he has been a talent producer for things like the Chris Gethard Show. He's worked at Upright Citizens Brigade, been involved in a bunch of different kind of comedy related things. He is also the producer for the George Lucas Talk Show. And several weeks ago, I had on Connor Ratliff from the Dead Eyes podcast and the George Lucas Talk Show. And so Connor hooked me up with Patrick. And so he's going to come on and we're going to talk some more fun Star Wars stuff, a top 7 list, and it's going to be a lot of fun. So I'd love for everybody to join us this coming Sunday night at 8 Central live on YouTube and Facebook.
Yep. Clayton's episode was fantastic, by the way. It helped me on my ride home. So you can find me at the Michael Nip on Twitter, at the Deucecast. Ryfin mentioned our Discord. I'm kind of leaving that small right now. So if somehow you're catching this episode on YouTube and you're interested in participating in the Deucecast Discord, just DM either at the Deucecast on Twitter or on Facebook. We're on there as well. As with anything YouTube related, subscribing is everything, sharing is everything, liking is everything. And if you happen to catch this later on and leave a comment, I'll do my best to respond. But I appreciate everybody coming in on the live chat. It really makes it a lot of fun for us to participate with you guys in the live chat. And we will be back next week for the finale of Loki and episode 12, Rescue on Ryloth of the Bad Batch. Hope everybody has a great evening.